Hello. Hello. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning. I hope that you can all hear me.
Yeah, the audio is just fine.
All right. Perfect. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So, hi. Good afternoon, everyone, and from Europe, and good morning. My name is Bogdan Galusca. I'm a business development director, and my focus is business digital transformation services, which is a big umbrella, and it means a whole lot of things. But one of the key things that I've been doing for quite some time now is exploring how artificial intelligence and in particular our Sophie platform can support large and big scale organizations. So today I'd like to share with you some insights regarding the modern enterprise and how we believe a platform like Sophie can help and transform these enterprises. So first and foremost, I'd like to share with you a bit of my principle and how what I believe co-creation means. We at Stefanini, right? We believe in co-creating for a better future, and this applies to our big global team. And I believe that means understanding the world today, predicting and doing our best to observe and predict the future, but executing on our on strategy and our visions with the right mindset, the right process, and an amazing team. And I think that nowhere within Stefanini this applies more than in the global Sophie team. I think that. The team is incredible, and they managed to predict long ago to see how the world will change and build a great product and a great platform. And with the same mindset, they look forward and continuously improve Sophie. And I think this is particularly relevant when any enterprise is looking for a partner to transform themselves, to help them in their innovation journey. So let's talk a little bit about the world today and the future. And I'm going to touch a little bit on one of the questions I would ask before in a minute. So when we look at the culture, the managerial culture of enterprises today, there's a whole lot of things that are changing. Fundamental things, and these principles that have been the traditional principles that have been with big companies for a long time are fastly changing. And in the we can look at the world today with COVID and all the economic pressure that everyone is feeling. Um, Now more than ever, these trends are accelerated. There is more speed and fluidity that each organization wants to build in. The agility factors are in there, and everybody is building up teams, is building up ways to work. Remotely and again having more projects, learning and failing fast. There's a fluid organizational boundary, right? We're looking for talent no matter where it is, no matter who pays their payroll and so on. We need the best team that we can possibly find to achieve our goals. There's creative empowerment across the organization. We have people that act as internal entrepreneurs and lead new innovation projects and take the chance, as the story you heard earlier about, let's try a platform like Sophie. Let's see what happens. Let's see where we go. The fundamental things that drive an organization, now are very concrete. They're more, they have to do with some things that are fundamental, right? Profit, purpose. We want to make a better world. We want to be profitable, and we want to give back to the community. The advantages that a company has, they are, those fade much quicker. So you need a constant competitive edge, and to build up that edge. And looking back with analytics and reports for what happened doesn't inform you for the future. So you need to be smarter about that. You need artificial intelligence, predictive models. You need enhancement. Bringing data from multiple sources so that you can have the best decisions going further as an organization. The KPIs, these are also important, and I will not go through all of them, but it's important to mention a few. Return on investment. People are very much aware of what we're investing, what we're putting our money on, what's the business case. And the return on investment has to be measured not only in actual profit, but also in revenue increase, but it can be measured in market share, in net promoter score. It has, what is the value that I get from all of my services and products that I put out there. There's time to market. It goes back to the competitive point I made earlier. The velocity with which we go to market is paramount. Take an example from retail earlier this year, when COVID struck. All of the traditional retailers, they were scrambling to get their e-commerce operations up and running. They were scrambling to change their processes so that they can shift from mostly traditional store sales to online stores, and that required technology and communication with the end consumer. And not everybody was successful in approaching that. So velocity to and the way how fast you adapt is crucial, right? Not to mention all the compliance issues that we're all facing today, and prioritizing the high value things. Um, there's also KPIs around scaling up and end user engagement, right? And those users may be internal or external, and this is where platforms like Sophie play a crucial role, because no matter what the platform is, no matter what the product, and no matter who your audience is, whether it's an internal for a large organization, or their consumers, or if it's a B2B, they're the people that are on the other side, of your partners, of your customers. It's important to have those communication channels very properly put in place. You need a true omni-channel experience when you communicate with your users. And again, there are clear metrics that, again, they go from every level of the organization. And if you look at the more modern organizations, they do this very well, and they treat these KPIs as key drivers for their business. Now, this year, there have been some KPIs that have been slightly reinvented. I hear a lot of talk about social responsibility metrics as more important than ever. It's about giving back. It's about, how can I support my community so that my business survives, so that my business gains that extra point in end user, awareness, and my brand is more recognized for having done something good while the world was going through this horrible pandemic. So how many companies have you heard about, reaching back to the community, donating things, and donating their services very often? Now, also carbon footprint. There's a lot of discussions worldwide. A bit more in Europe these days than in the US used to be. And don't want to go into politics, but I think this will be a driving thing over the next decade, no matter who wins the next elections. Accessibility is also very important. We need to, our services, our solutions need to be where our users are, no matter if they're disabled, or elderly, or they have some sort of issue in reaching and benefiting from the values that the organizations provide. And lastly, and it was mentioned before, transparency. A lot of organizations, a lot of big companies, they kind of chase their tails. In Europe, we've had GDPR for a few years now, and a few years before that, we knew that it was coming. So, plenty of time to prepare, and still there are companies getting fines already, yeah, because they have not done the proper steps, and they're chasing their tails and fixing this thing, opposed to leading, opposed to taking this as a value, as saying, we are transparent, we want our users to see where their data is going, where their data is stored, how it is stored, who sees it, and for what purpose. And I think that's an important value that a platform, like Sophie, has built in. It's embedded, it's already there, because the more transparent your platform is when it comes to what happens to the end user's data and how secure it is stored, the better it is for, the more successful it will be as in terms of adoption. Now, these are some of the facts around the modern enterprise. And again, there are various maturity levels across different industries, different geographies. But pretty much this applies to across the board to various degrees. Now, let's talk a bit about the future. And it was someone asked before. I think Alex, you asked before. What's going to happen? What's next? You were asking Fabio. Now, we're living an incredible time, right? We're living in the fourth industrial revolution. There's a bit of a kink in. History will look at COVID as a kink in the road when it comes to this journey. But because if you look over the last 15 years, so 50 years ago we already invented most of the algorithms that are there, but as of the last 15 years we kind of started having the technology to automate, to store data, and the more and more data led to more and more solutions, and more computing power led to more smarter chatbots. So over the last years, again, it started with RPA and expert systems and automation of processes. Then the AI implementations went into context awareness and chatbots. And this is more like more on the traditional chatbot. I don't like to talk about chatbots because chatbots, when I used to be a developer a long time ago, they were a big text file with a lot of questions and a lot of answers, and a probability algorithm that decided which one was the most likely answer you could ask. And that's not what and that was chatbot, and that is the history. That's not what we need today. That's not what we an intelligent and smart and a true AI platform like Sophie is. So if you look at over the last few years, there have been a number of high advancements. Whether it's the Google AlphaGos and AlphaGo Zeros, and even the latest updates, whether it's the huge advancements when it comes to self driving cars from Tesla and from others. We are now reaching the point where we have machines or bots that are reasoning, that are really thinking, really bringing concepts together and associating them and helping us do our jobs better, innovate, invent new structure, whether it is coupling with additive manufacturing to invent new natural structures, or whether it is identifying the right answer for a customer service request. And as I said, we have a kink in the road, but I think that's it kind of slowed down in some areas, but accelerated in others. I'm reading about vaccines that are invented by AIs, right, to handle COVID. So there is a strong desire from everyone to use reasoning machines, to invest more in them and make them smarter. Now, going further, this is a bit more tricky. This is a bit more fun to predict. The Ray Kurzweils of the world, as Alex you mentioned before, which I remember reading his book in 2006. That was kind of really relevant for me at the time. They predict that we are going to have self-awareness, artificial general intelligence. Whether it's 15 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 20 years from now, that's kind of the time scale, in terms of magnitude. After that, I think it will be an easy track afterwards to get to a super intelligence. And here's where things get hard to predict, because you don't know where, people call it the singularity, people call it an intelligence smarter than a human, or all humanity combined. It's hard to predict. But I don't think I'm a positive guy, and I don't think I like to think in a positive way. I think that society as a whole will be challenged to come up with new ways and new rules and new ways of organizing, but it's going to be better rather than worse. All right. I think that Hollywood makes a point of showing a bad future, but I think that's not what it's going to be. I think we are going to improve society, and we're going to improve our lives in so many ways that we can't even imagine today. So that's my personal prediction that I adhere to. Now, coming back to the modern enterprise, yeah, we talked about the world today and how these things are moving forward, and how the principles are changing, and how the KPIs are changing as well, and how this AI trend is moving in a certain direction, which seems to be accelerating every day. And I don't know if the exponential rule applies there, or how fast things will change, but they're definitely going in that direction. So how does all of this affect the modern enterprise? And I want to show you three pictures that three perspective on these enterprises. And again, when I say modern enterprise, I mean whether it's an oil and gas company or a bank or a financial institution or a big retail chain or any kind of services or mining, whatever. So I mean in a generic sense. This is the first perspective, yeah, and it can be anything like this, boxes within boxes, and you see an organogram and some business processes at certain levels and some details around organizational structure. And this is kind of the helicopter view that, or the even the satellite view, if you will, that some of the investors and the CEOs and this is how they look at things, or they used to look at things, a lot of them, and this doesn't really define the reality. And here's another view, right? You can, and this is just a simple list. The list can be a lot longer. There's just a few examples here of key priorities and functions that you can have in an organization. You can look from, today we talk about work from home, and that becomes a priority, right? It was a priority this year for all of us, and we look at the best ways of doing it and achieving it in a way that you know we continue to have our teams productive. We have business model resilience challenges these days, right? How do we have a resilient supply chain? How do we have resilience when it comes to people and our organization, and our headcounts and so on? Omnichannel discussions. There are new workflows that have appeared, and even in the last months, that a lot of companies need to implement. There are a lot of, always, the bigger the company, the higher the cost of maintaining legacy applications, and the more unstructured data sources that are around that are not always used. I remember a discussion with a major CIO here in Germany this year, and talking about his top priorities, and his biggest one was governance. He said, "I have 300,000 endpoints in my organization. My biggest fear is how do I make sure they're all updated, all secure, and I maintain the security around the perimeter around my organization." There's customer support, and then there's service desk for internal support. There's escalations of all sorts, integrations. Cybersecurity has never been a more hot topic than today. And public cloud and the open organization is also a priority, as I mentioned before, and a new principle of management. And on top of it all, you have to innovate and improve quality. Yeah. So this is a different way of looking at things, and it's a valid way of looking at things. And there are obviously many other boxes that you can put here. But again, that's not real. This is real. Yeah, this is the reality. How many boxes you put on the white paper there, on the white sheet, they're all interconnected. This is the reality. And I want to ask you a question, and I'm sure you have the answers, at least all the Sophie team has. What does this look like to you? And I'll tell you what it looks like. It does look like this. It looks like a neural network. It looks like Sophie's brain. And that is why I honestly and truly believe that an AI platform, a good implementation of an AI platform, is the only way to successfully transform a large organization. Because the neural network that is the fundamental thing of an AI platform is the same and looks the same, like and the structure and the function around functions and people and everything that a modern organization has. There's complexity in there, and that complexity can only be solved with a similar kind of solution. Yeah, with a similar kind of a level of complexity. So here are some facts about Sophie, right? Sophie in the modern enterprise, the way we have designed it, has to do, integrates all the channels that are out there. It integrates with the people that are still involved in some of the processes that Sophie is involved with. There are workflows that it is embedded, that she is embedded in. Yeah, to quote Patricia earlier, she is involved. There are processes. Sophie learns from the knowledge. Knowledge is an ever evolving thing, and from my experience, a lot of the knowledge out there is unstructured, and that's why we have all the new features that Sophie has, to learn from unstructured data and accelerate the learning process. And then you have Sophie that is available and addresses some of the realities of these companies. It's highly customizable when it comes to languages. It analyzes end user sentiment. It knows its context, and it speaks in a natural way. Moreover, it is, as I said, omni-channel. So it comes out of the box with so many of these chat platforms, which I think are amazing, because we can go in an organization and just focus on how what problems we fix, rather than where we put Sophie. Sophie should be pretty much on all the channels where the users are. Another important for these large organizations, and any organization for that matter, is culture. We believe in co-creating for a better future. In the same way, other organizations have other beliefs and have mission statements and visions. And the way we adapt Sophie, her her user interface, how she speaks, how she behaves, how she looks like when it comes to an avatar, that is important, because it should match the organization's culture. It is crucial for that company to adopt the features, and the best way to do it is if they feel like Sophie is a colleague. It's part of their organizational context and culture. um, Underlining it all, you need to have a strong layer of analytics. Everything is data driven, this data driven, that, this more than anything. Yeah. So without good data, without a lot of data, you can't have a good bot. And then a good bot, a good AI platform, is only as good as the users using it, and it's only as good as it is in it is improving over time based on that feedback, and based even on the feedback that is not necessarily direct. It is collected from those end users. So a strong analytics of a layer underneath is, again, really important to make sure that Sophie learns all the time. I want to end here with a couple of things. We believe, and it is already the case, and as Spencer was mentioning at the top, with all the cases in US and all the cases in Latin America and the ones we're building up in Europe, Sophie is already the answers in for many of these large corporations, large organizations, when it comes to how do they deploy AI at a scale. So when they ask these questions, we can support them here. We can come in and say, look, you need a platform that integrates easily, right? Integrate. I can't stress that enough. And it's important to have a platform that learns quickly, right? You can't just go overnight with an AI platform. Then how do you choose the right use cases, right? This is another question. I've been in conversations where they say, look, we've tried this, we've tried that, it didn't work out. So how do you choose the right use cases? And the methodology that we imply here is also very important. How do you build a secure platform to reach beyond the organizational boundaries? We have Sophies, all right? So Sophie implementations that sit in the organization, but also a little bit outside. We have, they collect data from outside the organizations, from within the organization. They go on the internal chat systems. They might go on the WhatsApp. How do you make sure, it is all secure? And back to your question, what are the things that we see in Sophie improving? The one thing I really love is the cloud backend. Right, again, the nerd in me, seeing the how easy it is to it takes a button to launch a Sophie, and then it takes a few days or a few hours, whatever the use case is, to get it up and running. And you do the connect, you put the connector in place, and there you have it. It's up and running, and it is in a secure way. And my last point here is, how do you make sure you achieve it all with compliance and data privacy? This is, again, paramount for a lot of countries in Europe, and I think for people all over the world. Where is my data? How is it stored? And as I said before, I think that Sophie and we have that as a fundamental thing in the platform. So yeah, that's it, folks. That's all.
Cool. I mean, I want to thank you for your usual brilliance. It's always a pleasure to hear you, to talk to you, and I mean, having the opportunity to share your vision was fantastic. Let me ask you one question, because we have to get out of the room for the next presentation, which is great, by the way, about SAP. Um, we have this challenge because before in the old times few years back we had this corporation talking and the users, either their employees, their collaborators, their customers listening. So it was one too many. And now we have this challenge that is, I have to talk with my customer, with my user, with my employee one to one. And obviously, I cannot have on my side all these people to talk and to listen. So, what would be the challenge, and how do we use Sophie to reproduce the voice of my organization, to reproduce the objectives of my organization, to reproduce the vision of my organization, as you have put in your presentation? I mean, is that relevant? Is that important?
I think it is. I think it is. One of my big passions and my areas of focus is retail. And retail has to do with consumers and personalization. And I think that's the key word, personalization. I think that more and more, no matter what company, especially in B2C, you need to be personal with your consumer. And that personalization comes from the way you teach Sophie. And I think this is where things will go in the future. I think that the more Sophie knows about my context as an individual, the better answers I can get. And for example, again, mentioning retail, if you have a mobile app for e-commerce and you buy stuff, you want to have a promotion that is for you, not a promotion that is for everybody. Yeah, my favorite, I don't know, brand of something is different than the same, brand of bread is different than your favorite brand of bread when you go to the
And with
supermarket.
Sophie, I can
Yeah.
fine tune not only the promotion or the
Yep.
price, but the way she talks to you.
And the way she talks with me and the way she suggests, right? Maybe, I was playing with, we were with Patricia, we were testing, Sophie as the witty Sophie, right? which is really fun, right? You can have a witty Sophie, and that's if you ask her silly questions, then she will answer back, and I think that's fun, and I think that is applicable in many cases. At the same time, if you have a situation where we have in Europe and also US together, we have a very strong digital healthcare services division where we support clinical trials and of new medicine and new drugs and devices and such. That's where you need a lot of empathy because you're talking with doctors, you're talking with patients, and in that case, Sophie needs to have a totally different attitude. So I think again, personalization and contextualization, I think, are two key drivers for that.
Thank you, my friend. Really cool. We need to get out, so Sujoy will take over.
Yeah.
The SAP project is the most ambitious thing we have prepared for next year. It's a multi-country development, and we do know we'll make an impact in the SAP world. It will be a very nice presentation. Again, it was great, and the pitch comparing Sophie's brain with the complexity of an organization was one of the best pitch bits I have seen in a long time. Thank you, man. Let's get out of here.
All right. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having me, and talk to you guys soon. And thanks for all the comments. I see a lot of comments in the chat. So thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of
Thanks.
the day and a good show. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.